We're back to the Horns Up Talking Texas podcast. Fisher, Desopoulos, Snacks, Kreider, getting Quan Cosby back on the next one. Gents, Big 12 postseason champs. Won the tourney. There was a point in that Kansas game where we were just hanging out at the bar. I was talking to Joe DeLeon off air. He's like, you guys must have been going crazy. And quite frankly, we weren't. Honestly.
You stop paying attention after a while. I mean, when you win a game by 20 points, there's not really much interest.
Correct. And I think my point to that is we are so confident in this team and their ability to possibly make a run deep in March into April that once that game got out of hand, it wasn't like, okay, this is the pinnacle of our season. Like, we didn't expect to win. I expected us to win that tournament if we got to face Kansas.
I agree. I mean, we had just beat them less than a week before.
Yeah, and no Bill Self
right
on the Pine. Which makes a huge difference.
Hoping he gets a quick recovery, obviously.
He's out of the hospital. I think he's going to get a shot.
Great. That's great.
Now, I thought we were going to get a 1 seed. I thought we were going to jump Kansas because we'd beaten them twice in 1 week, and then we'd won the Big 12 championship tournament. Obviously, we fell short of the regular season championship by half a game, right? If we would have won one more game, then we would have shared it with Kansas, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the deciding factor. They've got one more win than us, but I think you got to look and see who's playing better right now, and we've beaten them twice in the last week.
Yeah, I think it also mattered. The quad wins was really like the determining factor for number 1 seeds. So that one win extra that they had in conference, I don't know exactly who it was, like the deciding win, but that was probably against the top 25 team, which adds an extra quad win to their case. And being the regular season Big 12 champs, certainly helped them. And I think that, they don't have a guy who's their interim head coach. Mm-hmm. I know that, we'll talk about it. And I think at least the way that I feel about it, Terry has done everything he needed to do to get a full-time offer to be the Texas Longhorns.
I agree. Unless they get upset in the first round or something like that, something crazy, which I doubt is going to happen.
I mean, they lost one game at the Moody Center. That slobber knocker of a game. Was that right when he was?
I was against Kansas State.
Against Kansas State.
That was the week after.
Yeah. The week after he got fired or like put on leave. And at that point. And that game, which is crazy, our defense, especially as of late, has been red hot on fire. Arterio Morris on the point of attack has been great, and we've been deploying him fantastically. And that game is kind of like, I'm looking at our schedule, that game's kind of the outlier.
Yeah, we also haven't lost a game this season when leading at halftime, which I know people flash that stat, and then you think, oh gosh, like here comes the jinx, right? And I said to you guys at the bar against Kansas, and I think if there was a game that we could have slipped through our hands, right? We had, a 6-point lead coming out of halftime against Kansas, right? Yeah. Like, that's, a lead that you can definitely blow against a team like Kansas, but just kept our foot on the gas pedal and continued to play great second-half basketball, which we've done all season long. Mm-hmm. And I really think that, Terry's got a lot to do with that. Like, whatever he's instilling in these guys, it's the culture, it's the way how they've been playing all season long, and I'm with you, Toss. I think he's earned his job next year, unless there's some crazy upset against Colgate, and even then, I still think he's got a job.
If he gets to the Sweet 16, he's in a great position. Look, if he gets past Colgate, which I don't think is going to be necessarily as easy as a typical 15-2 seed.
You were saying they're the best 3-point team in the nation.
The top 3-point shooting team in the nation. And we saw Ohio State get upset recently. We saw Kentucky get upset last year.
We saw Virginia get upset.
We've seen these 15, 16, Florida Gulf Coast in the past. Like, these guys have been playing together for years, these veteran guys. College basketball, and while it has happened in recent years, we're also in a situation where we have a group of veteran guys too. This isn't a team of rookies and freshmen. Serge Ibaka, it's his first year here.
It's a lot of last chance guys.
Carr, Dessou, Allen. These guys have been playing together for now a couple years, and Dessou's getting hot at the right time. He's an absolute presence inside. His touch has been unbelievable. He's getting boards. I think I'm done waiting for Dylan Mitchell to show me and excite me, and I think I'll just deal with him as a flashy finish player and a guy who at least is aggressive on defense.
Yeah.
And when Bishop's not going for these windmill slams mid game, he's been awesome too. I
He had
think
a great 360 dunk the other day.
So
Or 180.
Rice and Carr have not been shooting, and Hunter have not been shooting the lights out of the place, and still, we've been so good on defense. I mean, in the tournament, alone, 56 points to Kansas, 60 to TCU, 47 to OK State, and then right before the tournament at home, 59 to Kansas. Our defense at the right time, again, has been top dollar. And if you get past, let's say A&M beats Penn State, which I think that game's probably a toss-up in my eyes. Penn State's super hot, and A&M had a great showing in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, both teams had good
Really
runs
good.
in their conference tourneys.
They both went to the 20 finals.
You guys want to play an M though, right?
I would love to play. Yeah, you want to play A&M. Look, if he gets past Colgate, great showing there, gets past A&M, which again we're going to be favored in both those games, and you beat the rivaled A&M Aggies, let's say the tournament breaks all favorites up until that point, you might have a shot against Xavier here. And one of the guys that has been quote unquote rumored to go to Texas to potentially replace Coach Terry, if he is replaced, is Sean Miller. I mean, you guys know how I feel about Sean Miller. I think he's the most overrated coach since I've been alive in college basketball. He's never sniffed a Final Four with fantastic rosters.
Right. Excellent recruiter.
Yeah, you know what?
Never been able to get it done on the court.
According to the FBI, not that great of a recruiter.
Right.
Sean Miller, to me, if he can beat Sean Miller and go to the Elite Eight, if he came in second in the regular season in the Big 12, if he won the Big 12 tourney, if he kept the recruits, which people say is not a big deal, I would still like to argue that it is somewhat of a big deal to keep these 5-star recruits and these top dollar recruits that we have coming in next year. Then there's no one else available. I'm like, okay, if Mark Few is going to leave Gonzaga, I'll listen to that. If Calipari, I guess, is going to leave Kentucky, I'll listen to that.
Mark Few still hasn't won.
Few hasn't won, and Calipari, when was the last time he won? Anthony Davis? Carl Anthony Towns.
No, was it Towns?
Carl Anthony Towns.
Towns, yeah.
Was Towns. Look, I mean, again, you can't. Those are major recruits, and those are major teams. But he had what I thought last year was the best team and blew it in the first round.
Yeah.
And this year, again, they're a 6 seed, but I think they're in a nice position to potentially make a run again. And there's a way that they can get to the final.
Yeah.
4 Elite Eight. So I want to see how he performs in the tourney as well. But to me, if Rodney Terry can get us to the Elite Eight, I see there's no reason why he can't keep his job.
I feel like you just went from the Sweet 16 to the Elite Eight.
I want to go to the Elite Eight. If he goes to the Elite Eight, he's got to keep it.
I want to go all the way.
Yeah, I want to go all the way.
Yeah.
But if he goes to the Elite Eight, he keeps his job.
I mean, I already said he's keeping his job.
No matter what.
I'd expect so. I don't really see otherwise. Okay, yes, if you want to talk about a first-round exit, but, let's not even go there. 2 versus 15, I don't care how good the 15 seed is. You're a 2 seed who Nick believed should have been a 1 seed. And whether you believe we should have been 1 seed or not, we were vying for that. We were in contention for it. We won our conference tournament.
We're probably the 5th team.
We finished AP rankings number 5.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we are, and not only that, we are the best team in our region too, because Houston has been dealt a bit of a shitty hand here, and they're not going to have a fully healthy Marcus Sasser, who is their best player and their point guard.
And they're heading into, Nick, you said that they get popped. They wouldn't make it past the second round, or they at least get popped in the Sweet 16. And
They have 2 losses this season, and one of them is to a team they could potentially play in the second round.
Auburn. Who
Pipe them.
Bruce
Early.
Pearl. Yeah, Bruce Pearl is as good as anybody in the tournament.
Right.
So
Yeah. However, I think Miami's the team that probably beats them.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma piped Alabama. UNC went to quadruple OT with Alabama. I think everybody thinks that Alabama is one of those teams that could end up in the Final Four. I don't necessarily look too far into that first month and a half of basketball. It's very important when you're talking about the tournament and seeding, because those wins are incredibly valuable. I still think that this Houston team is really, really well coached. I would expect I look at our team and I compare us to the rest of the top seeds. Xavier is good, but they looked pretty shaky in their conference tournament championship.
They came out flat.
Indiana, my mind is locked more on Indiana. I think that's a team. They've got a guy they've got Trace Jackson Davis, who's a guy who at many times during the season was
Hud Shafino, who could be a lottery pick.
Yeah,
if he has a good tournament.
TJ Day was supposed to be a lottery pick. So that's a guy that can take over a tournament game.
The hyphen names, guys.
Yeah.
Hochefino, Jackson Davis.
And then Miami is they're
John
obviously
Wilkes Booth.
they're a good 5 seed, but I trust our roster. We're like 9 guys deep. All those guys can play, and ultimately, like, our defense is going to keep us in every single game, even if the shots aren't falling.
I think someone was saying to me, like, when I was telling you guys that we should be a 1 seed on Saturday during the game, that, like, it doesn't matter. Like 1, 2, like, still a good seeding, and we're going to end up being the best team probably in whatever side of the bracket we're in, and it's shaking out that way. But if you look at the history, in the last 16 seasons, there's only been 1 2 seed to ever win it all. Not ever, but in the last 16 seasons, and it's Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as stats really, tell the story here, 1 seed gets it done majority of the time. Every now and then there's a 3. There's been a 6 here and there, but it's definitely an easier path when you're a 1.
Yes, it is an easier path if you're a 1. But if you're going, in my mind, as a 2 seed in this year's bracket, like based on where we could have ended up, as a 2 seed, we can go to play A&M, Penn State, which if we go play an A&M, we're not losing that team.
No.
Right?
Hopefully.
I can.
And then your 3 or your 6 is Iowa State, and you got to feel pretty good about that comparatively.
Would it be a bigger kick in the nuts to lose to Colgate first round or to lose to A&M in second round?
My nuts would be kicked well into my throat either which way.
I think
I'd be coughing testes.
I'm going to confidently say Colgate, and I do believe that we would beat A&M if we were paired against them. But I actually think, looking at the rest of the regions, those are the 2 best 7 and 10 matchups. Like, those are the 2 best teams from the 7 and 10 matchups.
Michigan State USC is pretty good.
Meh.
I think it's pretty good.
Michigan State team of destiny vibes with the tragedy that happened like this year. Like they're playing with that.
Both those teams are actually good teams.
Mizzou's good as the 7.
Yeah, Mizzou is a really good 7 seed. I am
The Northwestern Boise State thing is like.
I'm not necessarily sweating, like you said, though, the Iowa State game. I think we have we know
I'm
them
not
really well. We know how to beat them.
Yeah.
We know that we can beat them. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the interesting part of it is, like, we won the Big 12 tournament, and we didn't have who we often throughout this season deemed as, on any given night, our best player. And now he gets back into the mix, and Timmy's an awesome competitor.
He's for sure playing Thursday, yeah? Do we know that?
I would expect so. I haven't heard the official ruling on that.
I think he was almost ready to go against Kansas.
He could have played in both of those games, so I'd imagine that we're not going to, like, save him for round 2.
He's considered day to day.
Yeah.
Look, if we can, I would love for him to get out there against Colgate. Not even because I think we need him to win the game.
Right.
I would love for him to get his sea legs in round 1. He missed some games. He missed the tournament.
Definitely.
So I'd love for him to get back in the mix,
Get a shot back.
get his shot back, and also get our other guy's shot back. Because we talked about him as a
Rice.
playmaker, right?
I think Rice needs to really start turning him back on, because I think he's, like we've been
he was
saying,
starting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe bring him off the bench again.
Yeah, I think getting him back off the bench is nice.
Well, you would expect if Timmy is back into the starting rotation that Serge Ibaka would be coming off the bench like he was. I think it was instrumental that Timmy sat those last 2 games, not only to get him fully healthy, but also to give the exposure and confidence that Dylan Dessou needed going into the tournament.
Please.
When you are a big man, a lot of your confidence comes from how many touches you get. And he was fed early in games in this conference tournament. And I think you can see how that translated from an emotionality standpoint, a competition standpoint. Like, he was more active on the glass. All of these things, like, added up. And I think so much of it, props to Terry and the rest of the staff for, like, telling him, like, when you get the ball and you're within 15 feet of the hoop, like, go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Make them double you, and then we'll make them pay in other places. And it's exciting that we're seeing this version of him coming into the tournament. With that said, like, when we get into those later rounds, and knock on wood, we do, and I believe that we have the talent to do that, Marcus Carr is going to have to return to the version of himself where he was playing his best basketball, or at least really, really good basketball in the middle of the season and very much at the beginning of the season.
Right.
Because the way that he's been shooting the ball, and I know he had a couple of clutch shots against Kansas.
He doesn't look confident, though.
He doesn't look confident, and the shot's just not falling. And, like, we have to have some level of 3-point shooting on this team, and I would expect that, like, if we get, to the Sweet 16 and past that, like, Morris might be playing as much as any guard on our team, because I think at the end of the day, like, from a talent perspective, he might be the most talented guard on our team. Defensively, I truly believe that.
I mean, he gives serious Marcus Smart vibes. Like, if he comes back for a second year as a sophomore in the Big 12, that I look at him, he's big, like strong,
defense.
bullish, like
Great defense.
He's great defense, fearless, like could pick up any guard at any point.
I also think we're like dangling the carrot in front of him at the right time, because there were some rumors, a month and a half ago when he wasn't getting a lot of PT that this is a guy that could transfer.
Yeah.
And for us to lose a guy that was that big of a recruit, it looks like he and Mitchell could be staying back. And if they are, like, we want them to be Texas Longhorns.
Yeah,
obviously.
these guys, I think, when it comes to tournament play, best man plays, the hot hand. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Dessou. We're talking about Timmy getting healthy again, and Carr and Jabari Rice, but like the guys who are coming to play right now are the ones that should be getting the minutes. And I know that's easier said than done sometimes, and I think that's like an obvious thing to say, but we've rotated in guys like a lot. I mean, Dylan Mitchell honestly should not be seeing the court too much in this tournament.
Unless we really need like a spark plug, like long defender.
Right.
I'm looking right now, like we talk about 3-point shooting though, and again, like Marcus Carr's shot having to fall because we're going to play teams that shoot the 3-ball well. Colgate, like we mentioned, the number 1 3-point shooting percentage team in the nation. If we go to the Sweet 16 against, like, again, everything playing out correctly, Xavier's number 5.
Mm-hmm.
If A&M loses to Penn State and we go to play them, they're number 11.
Yep.
Like, yes, I think I am with like the sentiment that this is a good draw in the bracket, because our defense, the ability to turn the ball over, our playmakers moving the ball around, guys finding open shots and good looks, and our pretty solid free throw shooting throughout the year, especially from a guy like Serge Jabari, who, when his shot's not falling, is great at getting to the rack. He's been aggressive with rebounds lately too. But we do have to hit the 3-ball against these teams.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to – it's like – because you don't want to fall behind. If we could be ahead of these guys, I feel confident. But falling behind one of these teams, like, you don't want them to bury us with these threes.
Yeah.
And, I think that could be a bit tricky, but I still feel good about where we are in the bracket.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think part of that is like what we really corrected in the Big 12 tournament, which was rebounding. And when they're teams that are high volume 3-point shooting teams, the rebounds, they come off the rim a lot longer for the most part, right? The further away you are when you shoot, when you miss further. You miss longer.
Yep.
And I thought we rebounded incredibly well in the tournament, and that's got to continue on both sides of the ball. I mean, like, how many extra opportunities were we giving ourselves with like tip outs and guys just kind of
A lot.
mucking it up, clogging the paint when the ball was off the rim, and we were really, really good on the offensive glass, which is, I think, essential for our team to have success, because we aren't a great 3-point shooting team.
Correct.
So we got to give ourselves as many opportunities as possible, and then like getting out in transition, getting to the free throw line, like you said. I think the game plan is there to get really, really far, and I think we've seen a lot of pundits already mocking Texas to go deep, to go to the Final Four.
Dickie V has us in the championship.
Jay Billis has us in the Final Four.
I mean, I don't want that to be a curse, obviously. I don't want like a bunch of people saying that we're going to go all the way, and that ends up being the opposite. But look, I think you're right. There's a lot of things that we do right this year that are easier said than done. It's hitting our free throws. We've been doing it great all season long. That's our slogan at the charity stripe. Getting boards.
Yeah.
Limiting the turnovers, I think it's something that we've definitely really limited over the past
corrected
season.
on that as well. Yeah,
like we're winning the turnover battle every single season. There's been a couple games here and there where we don't score off turnovers, but now that we're turning points, turnovers into points, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And just like load management, but just getting the right guys, the right amount of minutes. You know what I mean? Like Brock Cunningham's been contributing his butt off, and he's been getting valuable minutes. You know?
I mean, that entire like bench rotation for the most of the season, when Serge Jabari comes in, when Brock comes in, when Christian Bishop come in, they bring and now Arterio Morris, they bring this level of intensity that cannot be matched by many bench units in college basketball.
I mean, no. Again, like our bench unit of those guys, like
we truly have the best depth
I mean,
in
Rice,
the NCAA.
Yeah, if it's
we don't have the best top talent, which we've talked about on this show before, but But
I
I
mean-
think our defense is so good that we can still go all the way because of that. And I think like these people mocking us in the Final Four, this is a little bit of unfamiliar territory for us. Like
Yeah.
I feel like normally we're on the couch talking. We're tricking ourselves into believing that we could
could
make
do
this
it.
Well,
run.
last year we were like, okay, we could like
We
slip
were
in
3
there.
seed last year.
No, 2 years ago we were 3 seed.
What were we last year?
We were
Six?
6 seed, I think.
6. We were 6.
We lost to Purdue last year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think the top level talent you're talking about, I think like we're top 10, top 15, like top level talent team. In terms of depth, though, yes, you're right. But like we talked about a team like Kansas, right? If one of their guys goes down or is in foul trouble, right? Like
yeah, they
they
run
crumble.
5
They
guys,
have
30 minutes a
there's
game.
no one there besides those top 5 guys they have on the roster.
What's the beauty of it? Like if Morris gets hot, he gets hot.
Right.
If
If he needs a break, here comes in Sabari Rice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really. I had the same Final Four, I believe, as Jay Billis, which I don't know how I feel about that.
Nice. Well, if you have a Final Four and you want to make a pick and you want to make a bracket, we've got one for you. It's free to enter on Run Your Pool. We'll put the link in our bio at the.charity.stripe Instagram. It's free to enter, as I mentioned. $1,000 cash prize on top of a $1,000 table at the Victorian in Santa Monica for those of you who are in Los Angeles, or you can give that away to somebody. There's also a second place prize, a third place prize, and a fourth place prize. Free to enter, like I said. If you think our Horns can make it all the way, let us know.
Really quick, who was your gut check Final Four?
Texas, Gonzaga, Alabama, and Kansas State.
T-Dot.
Texas, Alabama, Duke, and this is a crazy one here. Arkansas.
Oh, wow. 8 seed.
Yeah.
Crazy. Also, just speaking of crazy, before you give us yours, Josh, Chris Beard has a job. Ole Miss.
We'll talk with Quan
running
about
Rebels.
that.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. But I mean, we gotta talk about it for a quick second here. I mean, I'm pretty shocked that it happened this quick. To be honest, we fired him less than 6 months ago.
I'm not.
Not either.
And-
we fired him 3 months ago.
I'm not. The reason why I'm not shocked has nothing to do with the situation of what went down with our university and Chris Beard. And I think, outside of that situation, he's considered a top 10 coach in college basketball, maybe even higher on some people's boards. But Ole Miss is in somewhat of a desperate place from a basketball standpoint. And teams like us joining the SEC with Oklahoma, who is not in, they're not one of the 68 teams who's dancing, but they had a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, they beat Alabama. They're going to compete. They bring in good recruits. People transfer in. It's a good. I think it's a good basketball program.
It's crazy. We're gonna play him twice a year every year.
Epic.
I think
And
that
Rick Barnes.
I think that you look at the SEC and it's become a really tough and competitive basketball conference, and they need to compete.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I'm not surprised by the move.
I'm with
Yeah,
you.
him and Lane Kiffin, what a duo in the streets. I mean, you had two. I love the Arkansas pick. I've toyed with having them go to beat Kansas.
They have two lottery pick guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Two
I
great
think that
guards.
if Nick Smith, who we didn't get to see, an entire season from, I think if he really comes on, and then they have Anthony Black too, it's a
Yeah.
1-2 punch. They can,
Black is long, dude.
Yeah, they can really take people down.
In that region, I did have UConn taking them out in the Sweet 16, and
I think
UConn,
that's a really tough team.
I give UConn, they rebound the ball a hell of a lot. I got them, Alabama, Texas, and Duke. I like this Duke team. I like John Shire, too.
What if we ended up with we didn't mention them, but they're a 2 seed in the East. Marquette,
Shaka.
Ashaka, Terry.
Sneaky season for him, huh?
Incredible season.
Incredible.
Well, they ended up the AP
Sixth.
sixth.
I think
behind us.
I think we got to talk to Quan about that one too.
Yeah.
I got to hear his thoughts there. Yeah, there's a lot of
Recruiting aside, Shaka Smart has this team. He's having success regardless, right?
If he was still here,
Yep.
something was up, man. The year you guys say no, this team, I'm with you. But the year we lost to FS Austin when we were the 3 seed, we were a really, really good team, and we were playing really well.
Yeah.
I believe we won the Big 12 championship as well that year in the postseason.
Yeah, it was like Greg Brown, right?
Greg Brown,
Kai Jones,
Jericho Sims. Like that was a really good basketball.
Andrew Coleman,
Courtney Ramey. Like that was a good.
Courtney Ramey playing for Arizona.
Arizona.
Now.
None of us mentioned them, but they have two big men that are really great. Ramey,
and
they've
Courtney
got some
Ramey,
good
who
shooting.
He had a huge shot against UCLA. To me,
who's the fakest 1 or 2 seed?
Purdue.
We just can't. We can't want
Because
Edie to win.
One guy.
Yeah.
It's a one-trick pony. If you're really quick, I just got to say, like, from the Purdue standpoint, first of all, Florida Atlantic is a sneaky offensive team. Memphis also had a really good showing against Houston. Yeah, they're missing their guy.
I think a lot of people are going to pick Memphis to upset Purdue just because of the Penny Hardaway factor.
Yeah.
And because they won their conference tournament. They're playing really well right now.
I don't see them going to the Final Four. All right, we'll be back with more with Quan Cosby next time. So get your horns up. Fisher, DeSoplis, Snacks, Crider.